Last week, Sam McClure made a list of A-graders that sent waves through the AFL media landscape. He left out Isaac Heaney, which was probably the biggest one. Kane Cornes came to the scene and put together a list of his A-graders, but I don't agree with either of them. So I thought today it'd be a fun exercise just to make my list of A-graders. So only 31 players as per the format that Sam McClure put forward. Let's get into it. Before you hate on me, this is probably the hardest list I've ever had to make. You're going to leave out a genuine superstar along the line, but here is my 31 A-grade players for the AFL heading into the 2025 season. Starting off with the Adelaide Crows, nice and easy here, nothing to contend with because Isaac Rankin and Jordan Dawson are genuine A-grade players of the competition. Isaac Rankin, every time he's in the forward 50, is one of the hardest players in the league to stop. He can do things with the football that not many people can. He's a modern-day Eddie Betts type, just absolute gun, showstopper, and game winner for the Crows. Jordan Dawson, since he's come to Adelaide, has been one of the most efficient midfielders in the comp. Sam McClure had Tex Walker maybe 3 years ago, maybe 8 years ago, but definitely not now. I think it's fair to say that the Crows only have 2 A-graders at this moment in time in 2025. Heading to Brisbane now, I have included Lachie Neale and Harris Andrews. Now, Kane Cornes took out Harris Andrews, which is mind-blowing because every time I watch Andrews play, he is just a brick wall in defence. So hard to beat one-on-one. And he's been probably the best fullback of the last 5 years. So I don't know how he has been removed from Sam's original list. Stiff here is Dane Zorko, especially after the year he had in 2024, winning the flag. Was just one of the best halfbacks in the league. But again, I'm talking about the 31 best players in the competition. Is Dane Zorko in that conversation? He is. He's just on the borderline though. If we're thinking A-tier players, I think Dane Zorko would probably be a B+. Not to say he's a bad player, but it's just so stiff. Moving on to the Blues now, I've got Paddy Cripps, Charlie Curnow, Harry Mackay, and Jacob Vietering. Sam Walsh was included on Sam McClure's list, but not Kane's. And I agree with Kane here. Sam Walsh hasn't really got to the heights that he once showed when he was younger. He's obviously still dealing with injury with that back issue that he's had. I think it sounds like it's nerve pain, something like that. Not to say that his standard isn't very high. I just don't think he's reached the heights that he showed earlier on in his career. Not to say he can't get to that. Again, he'd probably be a B+ player, but we're talking about the best of the best. Cripps is self-explanatory, 2-time Brownlow medalist. Curnow, one of the best forwards of the generation. Neither included Harry Mackay, but what other key forward can play in the ruck and get a Coleman medal, be an All-Australian, etc.? So I think Harry Mackay was stiff. He's a frustrating player at times, but I think he had a really good 2024, and I think he is one of the best 31 players in the league. Moving on to the Pies, we got Nick Dacos, obviously self-explanatory, and Dan Houston. So I've gone with the same as Kane Cornes here. McClure didn't include Dan Houston, but he is just one of the best halfbacks in the comp. He has an equal ability to beat his man one-on-one, and then he's dangerous going forward, very skillful, very clean. It's not really a weakness in Dan Houston's game, and he'll make a massive impact to the Pies in 2025. Essendon, nice and quick. I've only gone with Zach Merritt, same as both pundits here. Zach Merritt is levels above any other Essendon players, and I don't even think Essendon fans would argue that they have another A-grader on their list because Zach Merritt is just head and shoulders above. Probably the stiffest submission of any All-Australian side ever, Zach Merritt in 2024. Because that man wins games for Essendon week in, week out. Heading to Freo, I have Caleb Sarong. I haven't included Brayshaw, which Sam McClure did. I've included Hayden Young, though. Now, this might ruffle some feathers, and you can call me biased, but for a sustained period in 2024, Hayden Young was rated one of the highest players, no, the highest player in the competition. Now, he's that Bont mould, that run and carry, damage in the forward half type player, and I think he could be All-Australian this year with the trajectory that he has showed. Caleb Sarong, top 5 in the Brownlow, self-explanatory, one of the cleanest players on the inside in the comp, and just a heart and soul player. So those are my 2 for Freo. No Brayshaw, but I'm going to chuck Hayden Young in there because he's such a damaging player. You might think it's stiff to leave out Brayshaw. I just think his impact earlier on in his career, same as Sam Walsh, was a level above. That's not to say that these guys aren't incredible footballers, but when we're talking again, best 30 players, 31 players in the league, it's very tough. And I think Sarong and Hayden Young are just a rung above Andrew Brayshaw in terms of their talent. Heading to Geelong now, I have included Tom Stewart and Jeremy Cameron. I don't think there's many players that have ever played the game that can do what Jeremy Cameron can do. One of the best key forwards that can kick a bag on some of the best defenders in the competition, and he can pivot to the wing and cover the ground as well as any key forward in the comp. Stiff, but maybe not so stiff, is Bailey Smith. I think if he had played last year, he would be in this conversation because he's one of the best players I've seen play the game. Going to the Gold Coast, Kane Cornes scratched out Noah Anderson. I'm going to rub that out and bring him back in. I'm going to agree with Sam McClure here. Noah Anderson is the Gold Coast shining light. Mac Andrew could come into this conversation in coming years, but just the consistency of Noah Anderson, the skill, the poise, and just the impact that he has, he's definitely an A-tier player and definitely one of the best 31 players in the league. Heading down to GWS, who have more A-tier players than any club for me. So I've gone with Tom Green, Jesse Hogan, Lockie Whitfield, Sam Taylor, and Toby Green. A very stiff omission here is Brent Daniels for me. I think he's one of the best small forwards in the comp, but again, he's probably just a B-plus player. And you want to include him because you really like him as a player, but it's so tough to make this list. Kane scratched Tom Green. I don't know how you can scratch Tom Green. He's one of the best inside bulls in the competition, so I'm going to agree with Sam's GWS picks here. Now, Hawthorn, this is stiff. I've only gone with one A-grader in James Sicily. Now, in a year or so, you could probably easily put someone like Will Day or Dylan Moore in if he can back up his 2024, which I back him in to do. The reason for picking Sicily over someone like a Will Day in this scenario is James Sicily has literally changed the game. Him and guys like Jeremy McGovern have been players that have changed the way that the game is played and just have a massive impact on the competition. Will Day is extremely stiff here, don't get me wrong. But still very young in his career, and within the next year, he could be an All-Australian player. So, stiff. I know Hawthorn fans, I'm sorry, but some stiff omissions have to be made. For the Ds, I've gone with two in Max Gawn and Christian Petrarca. Kane scratched Oliver and May from Sam McClure's list, and I do agree with that. I don't think Oliver has been himself in the past couple of years for obvious reasons, and Stephen May hasn't been as threatening of a key back as he was during the height of the D's success. Maybe just because the midfield hasn't been operating as well as it once did, which, results in more entries. I don't know what it is, whether he's just getting older, playing through more injury and that type of thing. But I think Stephen May's rank as a defender has lowered over the last year or two. For North Melbourne, I have to include Harry Sheasel here. This guy puts up Nick Dacos-esque numbers in a struggling Roos side. So exciting, such a bright prospect for the future. For Port Adelaide, I've included Zach Butters and Jason Horne-Francis. Connor Rosie, very stiff here. But I feel like he just is a smidgen below Zach Butters and Jason Horne-Francis. Those guys are game winners. Rosie is very silky, very classy. There is a level above, an echelon just above that players like Butters and Sarongs and these guys sit, and it's inches. Yeah, this one is probably one of the stiffer ones, to be honest. I'm trying to warrant why I'm saying what I'm saying, but I can only choose 31 names, and Connor Rosie was a tough one to leave out. For Sydney, I've gone with their 3-star mids in Errol Goulden, Isaac Heaney, and Chad Warner. Very stiff to leave Papley and Blakey out here. Blakey, one of the best running halfbacks in the league, and Papley is a show-stopping small forward, but again, very tough to leave these guys out. McClure didn't include Heaney, which is absolutely crazy. Isaac Heaney had one of the best individual seasons I've seen in 2024, putting in massive performances, particularly in that final against GWS. He is as A+ of a player as you get in the competition, especially at this stage of his career. I don't know how you leave him out. Heading to the Bulldogs now for the last team with an A-grader, and it's Marcus Bontempelli. Don't need to say anything about the Bont. He is one of the best players to ever play the game. He glides across the grass. He puts the Bulldogs on his back. He does things that not many people can. Just one of the most incredible players to watch in the competition. So that leaves Richmond with none, which I think is fair as they're going through a rebuild. St Kilda don't have any, but I think Nasiah Wanganeen-Millera could be an A-grade player. And then West Coast, probably the stiffest omission of the video here was Jeremy McGovern after making All-Australian last year and doing his best to hold up West Coast during these tough times. I just don't know who you remove for Jeremy McGovern. Might be biased here. West Coast fans, who would you take out to replace McGovern with? Right, that is probably the hardest video I've ever had to make. Get in the comments and leave below your 31 A graders in the competition. Try not to bite my head off if I offended you and your favourite players in the AFL, but get in the comments and tell me why you believe they should be there without any anger or aggression. That would be great. There will be more football content coming out all season long. The footy season's just around the corner and I absolutely cannot wait. Subscribe for more great football content. Leave a like on the video to show your support for the channel and I'll see you in the next one. Until then, take care, you plonkers.